The Falcons hope 2 rookie starters in their secondary is going to be the boost that this defense needs to reach the next level.
You are Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everyone, to another illustrious episode of the Locked On Falcons podcast, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode of Locked On Falcons is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Now, if you do not know me, I am your very humble host, Aaron Freeman, a.k.a. Mr. a.k.a., and I've been covering the Atlanta Falcons for almost 20 years, formerly at FalcFans.com, RIP, still going strong on this illustrious podcast. And I thank each and every one of you that goes strong with me as everydayers. That means you make this podcast your first listen each and every day. And all you got to do to become an everydayer is subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. So on today's episode, we'll be talking about Braylon Trice's future and whether or not it is over. Will Michael Penix and yes. You know when you have notes and you're reading the notes and your brain skips a word, and then it's, I was gonna say Braylon Trice's future, and I caught myself halfway through, and I was just like, that's not the word that I'm supposed to say. So I had to, So
I was about to holler out, edit.
So peek behind the curtain, guys. So will we probably gonna edit all this stuff out?
Yes.
But will we see Michael Penix and Darnell Mooney get on the same page now that he's returned? But let's talk about these rookies, right? A lot of expectations for these rookies, including 2 in the secondary, 3rd-round draft pick in safety Xavier Watts, and 4th-round draft pick in corner/safety, whatever you want to call it, nickel specialist Billy Bowman. And Raheem Morris announced today on Thursday that both of these guys have won the starting competitions for their respective spots. Jarvis, is this a surprise to you that both of these players won their starting spots? And are the expectations high? Where are we at with the expectations for these 2 rookies in particular heading into this 2025 season?
I think that Billy Bowman wasn't that much a surprise to me, because when you think about the mindset, the confidence he plays with, the balls out, just type of mentality that he plays with, and we talked about it on the Falcons squad earlier, and I think that was one of those things where you understand why they drafted him, and I feel like he was and I will continue to say this, I feel like he was the guy out of this draft class that Jeff was the most perfect fit for a Jeff Ulbrich defense, because given how he plays, and just looking at his tape coming out of Oklahoma, you just see that the dude he just sells out, man. He's just all about it. And when you have that type of guy in that nickel spot, that can benefit you a lot. Especially when teams try to come out 11 personnel and he's trying to run the football and try to, take advantage of you in that manner from a number standpoint. So I wasn't too surprised about that one. But as far as Xavier Watts goes, that was not necessarily like he doesn't deserve to be the starter, but I thought that was one of those situations or moves that was going to come maybe a little more into the season and not necessarily at the start. But, it has to be somewhat promising if you have that guy come in and you feel like he earned a spot. Now granted, there was a DeMarco Hellams who was on fire in a preseason game. He was ringing bells, doorbells, doing knock jokes and all that stuff out there with his football pads, and just saying, "Hey man, don't forget about me." But he ended up going down dealing with some injuries and stuff like that. So you basically had it come down to Jordan Fuller and Xavier Watts, and you talking about when you get into that situation, you're basically saying, hey, I'm betting on this guy's upside versus knowing exactly what I'm going to get from a player. And we know that was one of the reasons why once Braden Trice got sent to, IR, I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but the corresponding move was Jordan Fuller then coming to the active roster. So when you think about it from that aspect, you understand the line of thinking as far as both of those moves go.
Yeah. I mean, I said this before. I think a lot of this season is trying to figure out who is, and I said this on the Falcon Squad show, is trying to figure out who are some of these foundational pieces to this Falcons defense. I know a lot of people have high expectations for this defense. I think we're all expecting it to be significantly better than what it was last year, whether that translates into it being a good defense, a league average defense, a below average defense. We'll sort of see how that all plays out. But I say that just because, I think this defense is still probably a couple of years away from reaching the level where I think we all hope it is, with particularly with some of these young players that they're counting on this year, including Watson and Bowman, turning in, reaching their hopefully ceilings in the coming years. And I just think like a lot of it, you need to see what these guys have. And there's really no upside to playing Jordan Fuller. There's really no upside to playing D. Alford. Maybe you could say they're more known commodities. And one of the things that comes with playing young players, like a lot of these guys, is maybe a little bit more inconsistency. But at this stage, like, to me, it's not really about like, okay, we got to play the guys in order for us to maximize wins. Like, I think you got to play these young guys and show me as an organization that the thing that you've been building is, I don't know, good. It's just like, I need to believe if I'm, we're at a crossroads, I think, with both Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris, where it's like, I want to believe by the end of the season that Terry Fontenot can draft players, and I want to believe that Raheem Morris and his coaching staff can develop those players, and you don't learn those things without these guys playing a ton of snaps this upcoming season.
Absolutely, man, because here's the thing. Like, basically, your draft class from last year on the defensive side of the football got redshirted. When you talk about having to prove that you should still be the general manager going forward, or at least for the foreseeable future. Yeah, man, those draft picks got to hit like that same year. We don't do no red shirts or let's put them in our developmental program. No, man, that's not how the league works now. Those cats come in, you draft them, and they force you to doggone play them in their first year. Whether it be quarterback, edge rusher, linebacker, safety, corner, it don't matter. It just the way the league is now. Like, the league is just like society. Like what have you done for me lately? Like, they ain't trying to wait, man. Nobody trying to see that. So we need to see some return on our investment almost immediately. We need these guys to be immediate contributors. And to be honest with you, I had my reservations about Xavier Watts, but regardless of the fact, like, he's going to have to prove that, yeah, I deserve to be the starter. Like, because we haven't really seen that, right? So, and it's going to be a pretty nice test that first game, because even though Chris Godwin's probably not going to be there, Jalen McMillan probably not going to be there, but they still got Emeka Egbuka and Mike Evans. So they have weapons. They got guys they're gonna use, and I think Cade Otton's gonna be out as well.
I saw that as well. Yes.
Yeah. So he always, any tight end always kills the Falcons. So especially Cade Otton. So there are some things that are just lining up to work out in the Falcons' favor. They're just going to have to take advantage of it. And it's going to start with that 2025 rookie draft class.
Yeah. Yeah, I look at a team like Minnesota. They didn't get really anything from their rookie class last year either. But hey, they won 13 games, so ain't nobody complaining about that.
Nobody tripping.
Yeah. So when you say, Jarvis, like, you can get away with not playing your rookies if you win games, and that was not something that the Falcons were doing consistently enough to get away with that. They went into the season expecting that, and then they didn't quite live up to that. But they need these rookies to contribute right away, and we'll see how much they're going to contribute right away. We'll continue the conversation talking about Darnell Mooney's return to practice and whether or not the missed time that he has had this summer will lead to a slower start than expected, and whether or not the Falcons can afford that. And we'll get into all of that as we continue today's Locked On Falcons. So, Locked On Falcons fans, are you tired of paying full price at the pump for gas? You're just leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. All you got to do is download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now, and you can start earning cash at the pump today. And when you use my limited promo code Touchdown, you'll get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. And guys, you can make a lot of money, up to $300 a year, just from buying the gas that you're already purchasing. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it is totally legit. Real people are getting paid to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out at any time and add that money to your bank account, to PayPal, or do like I do, put it on a gift card for Amazon or other brands. So don't let this offer drive by. Download the free Upside app right now using my limited promo code Touchdown, and you'll get a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code Touchdown. Offer varies by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. And the NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than getting into the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your favorite team, the Atlanta Falcons. But sometimes getting tickets to these Falcon games can be quite the hassle, whether it's the queues, the traffic, the login screens, the prices jumping at checkout. It can be very frustrating, and Gametime is going to take the hassle out of buying tickets. It's the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Gametime's fast. It's easy. It's backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time at the best price. Plus, with all the fees included, the price that you see is the price that you pay. And, when you pull up that Gametime app, you can go right now and see tickets for this week 1 action between the Falcons and Bucks for under $100. It's simple, just a couple of taps. And then we love the panoramic seat view. So what you see is what you're getting. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. So before we jump into the Darnell Mooney conversation, we have an important request here over at Locked On. We want to hear from you. Put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is the chance to tell us what you like, what you don't like, and answer some questions about advertising. All you got to do is go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. And you can also find the link in the description below. Thank you for helping us out. So Jarvis, talking about Darnell Mooney returning to practice on Thursday, very promising sign for his availability come week 1. That has been an open question when he went down. I believe it was the first or second day of training camp. I believe it was that. And he's like, and the question I remember talking about on the Falcon squad, it was like, are we worried about Darnell Mooney not being ready for week 1? And I was like, hey, I will wait till we see in September, because you will not get forthcoming injury information out of the Atlanta Falcons. Yes. So we will just wait. And then Wednesday, when we get that practice report, and if it has LP, limited participant, versus FP, by his name, then I will react to it. But obviously today was a good sign. But the question I have for you, Jarvis, is, you've missed basically a month of work with Darnell Mooney. You missed that week 18 game where Michael Penix put forth his best game last year against Carolina. Is this a concern, right? Where we need this offense to kind of hit the ground running early in the season, but You don't necessarily have as much time on task with Michael Penix and Darnell Mooney as you do with Michael Penix and Drake London. It's not sort of a question of can Penix and Mooney get on the same page. It's a question of when will that happen? Can the Falcons expect that, week 1, week 2, whenever early in the season, given all the time that Darnell Mooney has missed?
I think that, he did get the 2 games of experience, with the Giants and I'm about to say the R word, Commanders. So there was it was definitely some chemistry there. I know that was last year, but when you think about that game experience and those guys putting in the work in the offseason, those guys got a chance to put a lot of work in. So, and I think that, with Darnell Mooney's injury, it was the first day because I was actually out there because beautiful ball right there where it needed to be. But I think Darnell Mooney kind of landed funny, and the ball ended up, he caught it initially, then it popped out once he was on the ground, and then that's when he ended up getting helped out by the trainers or whatever. So I believe that connection is there. It's just a matter of, I feel like the first couple of games is gonna kind of dictate what they have success with. For me, because like we got an NFC South opponent, the familiarity, playing against, that particular, type of style of offense, but obviously it's going to be a little bit different because you have a quarterback that actually can move. He can move the pocket, and you know how much the pocket is going to be moved with Caleb McGarry not being in there. So there are going to be some different type of looks that I feel like the Falcons are going to be able to take advantage of with what they're dealing with at their right tackle spot. So I think they'll open up some opportunities for those guys to connect deep. And like you said, if they're able to get that run game going somehow, because we know, Caleb McGarry, can dethrone the season.
Is he a good run blocker? I didn't know. I don't know. He's important?
Pretty good.
Okay.
Pretty good. So yeah, I think that I don't think there's going to be if after game 1 we're not gonna. I feel like we're not gonna be having a conversation like, man, with Darnell Mooney would the doggone not missed a month of practice because that just seemed off. I don't think we're going to be having that conversation because I feel early on this team is going to be focused on making sure they establish this run game and get that part of the offense going, and MPX and Mooney, that'd be fine.
Okay. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think we saw a lot of good work between them in the 2 games that they played together last year. I think the challenge for Penix with Mooney is just a little bit harder than it would be with Drake London, where you can just kind of like, he's down there somewhere, he'll catch it. I just throw it in his area and he'll go get the football. And Mooney is much more of a separator. So it's like he's going to get open. It's just you got to dial in that touch and that timing a little bit to time it perfectly. And I think that is where not having the last month of being able to work together, maybe the first couple of times they try to link up together on some of those deep outs and those comebacks that we know Darnell Mooney is so good on. Maybe it's not going to be quite in sync there, but I think you're right. A game 2 at most, they'll be back on the same page. So it may be an issue early on, but just throw it to Drake and we'll get through it. We'll be fine. And hopefully if the run game can get going, I think you're right. So I'm not too worried about it, but it is one of those things that it'll be something to keep an eye on, at least in these first couple of games that Darnell Mooney is back. But Jarvis, we can't celebrate all good news today because we got some bad news, as you mentioned. Braylon Trice going on IR. We figured that Jordan Fuller's release was not a permanent move, that the Falcons were doing so to sneak a player on IR because they only could designate 2 guys before final cuts, and then they would need to do some shenanigans afterwards. And for me, I thought it was like, it'll be Clark Phillips, to get him back from that rib injury that caused him to miss a large chunk of training camp. And then you hear the news that Braylon Trice re-aggravated his knee injury that, that ACL that caused him to miss all of last year. And this may mean that for the second straight year, Braylon Trice's season is over even before it began. And I want to talk to you about what does that mean for his future and what do the Falcons do to fill those shoes as we wrap up today's Locked On Falcons. And this episode is also presented by PrizePicks, a daily fantasy platform that's going to let you turn your football predictions into real rewards. With the college football season already heating up and the NFL season not far behind, no matter who you have your eye on, PrizePicks is going to make it easy for you to get into the game. And they got the max discounts for the NFL going into week 1, where Dak Prescott, all he has to do is hit more on his 0.5 passing yard projections. And that's what makes PrizePicks so easy to play. It's just you versus the projections. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And if you get them right, you cash in and multiply your money. And those max discounts are basically giving you one easy pick. So you just need one more. And maybe you add that Dak Prescott to the Michael Penix stat projection, or you're looking ahead to this weekend's college action with Arch Manning and Carson Beck and Gunnar Duval Stockton making their season debuts. Take advantage, get in the game by downloading the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL and you'll get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, run your game. Jarvis, I can tell you're now in mourning, talking about Braylon Trice. And as I mentioned, learning the news that he's going on injured reserve, when Raheem asked was asked about the potential that this could be, a season ender, he sort of indicated that, they're still kind of figuring that out. So we don't quite know if this is going to be a season-ending injury. Obviously, with Trice going on IR now as opposed to earlier this week, it does mean that the possibility is that he could return from the injured reserve after 4 games. But we'll have to sort of see on that. But it's disappointing, I think, to see this news where, as we've discussed Braylon Trice at various times throughout the summer, and we've talked about him kind of being lost in the shuffle with some of the more high-profile edge rushers in this room, but him having a role this upcoming season, particularly as maybe a edge-setting run defender, and we got to see flashes of that in the preseason of him finding that role. But when you look at sort of what this means for Braylon Trice, where does your mind go?
It goes down a road that I really don't want to go down. And that is like completely being lost in the sauce, right? Like eventually being a guy that, like, man, we love you, but as far as the expectations or the excitement that we had when we first took you, maybe being a 3rd round steal, like, oh man, we were able to get this guy, get him in here, get him in our system, work him in, and then rookie year, boom, done for the season. Then you go into almost desperation mode when it comes to edge rushers and say, oh, Jalen Walker failed? Yep, let me grab him. Oh, James Pierce Jr. still available? 2026 first round pick? Oh man, blank them picks. Sir, yeah, Rams, come on down. Let's get our other boy that we fell in love with in this pre-draft process. Because I said this on Falcon Squad before. Like, I feel like if Braylon Trice would have played last year and he would have given you what you thought he could give you in that rookie season, I don't know if we are sitting here in 2025 with 2 edge rushers in the first round. I can't sit up here and say that 100% certain. No, I can't do that. So I feel like this injury stuff, man, it can be your detriment. Like, I remember talking to Braylon Trice about this very thing. I was just like, hey man, how are you feeling as far as coming off an injury, getting into that full speed mode, and do you feel like you're 100%? Because most of the time people say, hey, it takes about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years to be back to your full self. or it better, depending on how your rehab goes. And he was like, man, I feel like I'm 100% now. And I was just like, okay. And I saw flashes of that. So now you're talking about Raheem, fast forward to today, Raheem Morris talking about, yeah, we got to see what's going on. We need to do a procedure to see where we are, if this can potentially be. I was like, whoa, man, you are rambling more so than often, more than you normally do. And that's not good. Like when Ross start rambling on and start going down a road that he probably shouldn't be going down, he did the same thing with Caleb McGarrett. So I don't know, man. Like that can be the type of stuff that, the Falcons just move on. Whether Terry Fontenot here next year or not. They were like, all right, man, you got hurt back-to-back years. Oh, he a third-round pick. I didn't draft you, not my guy. And you can be forgotten about, man. They can move on and Terry could potentially do the same thing, especially if JPJ and Jalen Walker hit. Man, look, like you can get lost in the sauce quickly. And I think that's what it looks like we're headed.
Yeah. Couldn't say it any better than that, Jarvis. I'm not going to invoke any names from past Falcon players that were early round picks that have just not.
I know that's still fresh. That seems like that's still fresh. Cause I know where you're going. You can't fool me.
What? I'm just talking about Marlon Davidson, Jarvis. What are you talking about?
Did you just invoke Marlon Davidson?
Yes, I didn't want to, but it seemed you were accusatory in your tone, and so I was talking about Marlon Davidson.
Man, okay.
Well, to swing things back to the Braylon Trice conversation and how the Falcons fill those shoes as we went on an 8-minute tangent.
Sorry,
I apologize. It is what it is. We don't get enough Deidre Sanat takes here on Locked On Falcons. So I appreciate you, Jarvis. But
sorry, Deidre, if you're watching this show.
But I think it's funny because we talked about Braylon Trice, or at least I talked about in one of those post games after the preseason, like, okay, he's probably going to be more of a run defender. Maybe he can be a souped up version of James Smith-Williams. And then last week, Jarvis, you were like, hey, they got Khalid Kareem. He could be a James Smith-Williams type of player. So it does feel like, the Falcons won't lose a lot in terms of having that sort of edge-setting run defender because Khalid Kareem's on the practice squad and they can elevate him at the same time. But for me, it's one of those things where it's like Trice had, to me, the potential to give you more than that. And I don't know if Kareem at this stage, now 6-7 years into his NFL career, there's untapped potential at that point. He kind of is what he is at this stage. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Yeah, 1,000%, man. Like, Kareem was a guy that I remember when James Smith was first signed and I went out to training camp. I was like, oh, he can be, solid stout against the run. You need those type of guys because the Falcons run defense right now, that's one of my biggest concerns right now. You know what I mean? Like, I know that I'm making some assumptions as far as them rushing the quarterback, like I feel like they should be at least able to do. In year one in Jeff Ulbricht's scheme.
What a world we live in, Jarvis, where you can assume things about the Atlanta Falcons pass rush, right?
Yeah, I mean, they just have so many bodies. They have so many guys. Somebody has to get to the quarterback. Like, you know what I'm saying? I might not be able to pinpoint who it's going to be, but they sure have a lot of bodies that can get there. So that's not my biggest concern, which is such a breath of fresh air to be able to say. But yeah, man, if you're that run stuffing base 3-4 outside linebacker, I need that dude to be stout. And I really felt like Trice could have been that guy because he was mashing tight ends. And then what you talking about as far as the potential to be able to be more than that, if you get those opportunities, which you can, because teams throw the ball on first and second down too as well. So he would be able to mix it up, right? So I think he would have been able to take advantage of some tackles in his league, because of the how active he is and how he, keeps coming. He's a relentless type of rusher, and those are the type of guys that gets those sacks. Like But man, that dude just keeps coming. And I think that, Braylon Trice was starting to really settle into that role for me. I feel like you need those type of guys. But, with him getting hurt and then Khalid Kareem being that guy that can be that for you if a run heavy team comes in, I can see him being on the active roster, right? So for me, that is just, but it just sucks, man, that we're having this conversation again in year 2 of this young man's career.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll see what's what with Braylon Trice. We'll see what's what with this Falcons run defense. And again, like we're sitting here optimistic about a Atlanta Falcons pass rush. It's an incredible time to be alive.
I don't even know, like, how do we get here? Like,
yeah. So we're looking forward to watching the Atlanta Falcons get after the quarterback. Again, these words coming out of my mouth, they've never been spoken before in my
what language are you speaking, sir?
You speak with strange sounds. So we will see what's what with the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, we got more content coming your way this weekend. I believe we'll get a bonus episode from Maria Martin of 11 Alive next in your podcast feeds as well as on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe on either to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. So guys, it's going to do it for us here with myself and Jarvis Davis. And for those of you who don't know, as we were recording, we found out, big news in the NFL. Oh, Michael Parsons just got traded. So go check out Locked On Cowboys. Go check out Locked On Packers. It's always a beautiful thing about the NFL. There's always stuff going on. So, my thoughts on the Cowboys are idiots, but, it is what it is. That's not anything new. And kudos to the Packers. They now really completely shifted the power of the NFC at this point in time. And, was looking to do some season previews. And now I have to think very seriously about picking the Packers to win this conference now coming up. So check out the lockedonpodcasts.com/survey to give us your feedback over there. And of course, we have big moments here on Locked On with college football fans. Locked On and Fire TV presents College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 is going to lead the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. It's a college football preview that only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. And of course, that's all part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.